Hello. Good afternoon, ALEC. Thank you for all being here. If you can take your seats, we'll get started. It is so energizing to see so many free market supporters in one place. I hope you're all having a great time. I'd like to start this session by thanking our sponsors, Associated Builders and Contractors of Indiana and Kentucky, Americans for Prosperity Foundation, the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, and Mr. and Mrs. Bruce Stringfellow. I'm going to talk about two topics today. The first is the state of ALEC, and the second is a forecast of the challenges that we all face as free marketers. I am proud to announce that the state of ALEC is strong. In 2015, we welcomed 4 new task force directors and added legislative analysts to 2 of our 3 centers. Additionally, in 2015, we saw the launch of 2 new training sessions and programs for state government leaders and legislative staff. ALEC policy experts held events in more than 40 states and strengthened relationships with our free market partners around the country. Among our many partnerships, we are especially proud of our work with the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. Last year, in 2015, we held our first ever joint summit on criminal justice issues. And this spring, we held our second summit to outline our vision and priorities for the year to work together on those. Our coalition building efforts are also expanding to the federal level. We now host monthly conference calls with the members of Congress and state priorities and limited government. And just last month on Capitol Hill, we held an Article 5 panel to explore what the amendment of the convention would mean for the states and federal government. You heard from Congressman Flores last night and in his session this morning. We're pleased to have him here. And we look forward to hosting more events with our congressional allies to keep the lines of communication open between state and federal government. Many of you would be familiar with our Tax Academy we host every year. This year, we hosted a new Entertainment Innovation Academy at the Electronic Entertainment Expo in Los Angeles. And looking forward, this September, we will host our second Life Sciences Academy on pharmaceutical innovation and an Energy Innovation Academy down in Houston on smart grid, renewable energy, and energy management. There are a lot of ways to get involved in ALEC, and I encourage you to utilize these programs. Before I transition to the second part of my comments, I want to leave you with some pretty impressive numbers that speak to the strength of our ALEC network. I am proud to say that 25% of all state legislators are members of ALEC. 20% of Congress are alumni of ALEC. 8 sitting governors are alumni of ALEC. 4 of the presidential candidates were alumni of ALEC. More than 400 new legislative members have joined ALEC since the 2014 election. Many of you are here today. More than 300 city and county municipally elected officials are members of our ACE, American City and County Exchange. ALEC has experienced an 18% growth in the private sector membership since last year. And we've received over $1 million in foundation support. We have over 1,600 individual donors. And interestingly, and I think you've heard this stat before, 30 million American jobs are created by ALEC member companies. 60 million constituents and Americans are represented by our ALEC legislators. These are impressive numbers. And together, we will continue to build upon the success of our network of free market supporters. Now that leads me to the second part of my remarks today. As ALEC National Chairman Senator Leah Vukmir said yesterday, we must be vigilant in our defense of the free market. Right now, free speech is under attack. As ALEC members, many of you have experienced these attacks firsthand. You face angry protests, activist shareholder resolutions, sunshine requests used to chill and intimidate rather than hold government accountable. These intimidation tactics are a parcel of a larger war that's being waged on the free speech. We know this war exists because ALEC was the canary in the coal mine, and now we see it erupting around our country. College campuses, once bastions of freedom, are now being pressured by closed-minded students and staff who believe safe spaces for me, not thee. Well-established companies that have long represented American values are being pressured by a small and vocal minority who think they know what's best for our country. Most recently, our friends in the free market have been the victims of political blackmail. The subpoena of ExxonMobil by the New York City Attorney General demanding that they hand over documents related to climate change is a tactic to silence free speech. The subpoena of the Competitive Enterprise Institute by the U.S. Virgin Islands AG and other form of political intimidation. A group of 17 progressive attorneys general are leading the charge to label corporations, free markets groups as climate change deniers, and they are doing it publicly because all they care about is to win in the court of public opinion. These are all attacks on free speech, and the attacks do not stop when companies and organizations bow to this political blackmail from politicians and professional activist groups. ALEC has faced many trials and tribulations. This is not a secret. Our battles have been very public. They have been public because the activists want them to be public. This is their strategy, to silence you in the court of public opinion. They want to take away your right to speak because that's the only way they can control how you think. The activist groups pressuring our free market supporters do not represent the majority of Americans. The protesters are bussed in from out of state and are paid by special interest groups. Tomorrow, pay attention to this. Tomorrow, protesters will be given free food, T-shirts, and baseball tickets by the Indiana State Teachers Association and Union, the very union that claims to support the interests of students through its resources, but instead spends those resources on meals and entertainment for the AstroTurf protesters. It's funny, while they're outside protesting us, we're inside protecting their right to do so. These activists represent a threat to freedom. They're threatening our speech, our jobs, our democracy. Even though they should be, these are not rational actors who want to sit down and talk about the issues facing Americans today. They think it's perfectly normal to take an Uber to protest capitalism. Their attacks on free speech know no bounds, which is why we, as free market supporters, must remain vigilant in our defense of inherently American right to free speech. As Ronald Reagan said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. ALEC will be targeted by activist groups who want to stifle our speech, but we will not abandon freedom in its hour of need. I am proud to stand with you all and fight back against those who threaten free speech. ALEC is poised to provide strong defense against those working to silence our free market supporters. And today, right now, all of us are defenders of freedom. I am proud to stand with you, and I look forward to winning this fight.